beautiful soul. Welcome into Celestial Oracle Codes. So don't forget to hit that like, share, subscribe, and this helps me tap into your energy easier and give you more precise readings. So don't forget to subscribe and like, guys. But other than that, and if you're not a subscriber, please consider subscribing. We'd love to have you around. So today, a powerful stream of Celestial Codes manifested for the collective, right? I did an earlier collective reading and I knew it was going to be too long. I was like, there's too many. Before I even decoded and did all the things, I was like, it's too long. And me and my best friend were going to go to the lake today, but she got called away for an emergency. And so we're just going to go through with everything that I originally had planned. So I don't know why I'm feeling called to tell you this, but the way that me and my best friend, right, and I'm not going to mention her name here, but the way that we became friends, it was when I was going through a really big awakening, right? And I was coming into the fact that I had gifts. So I was kind of isolating myself from others, and I was really in like this self-sabotage energy. And she like approached me and she was like, we're going to be friends. And I was like, I don't need friends. Like, who even says that? I don't need friends. And I was like, and she like argues me down, and you know what I mean? I'm like I don't know how this is gonna go over kind of deal. And then she was like, I know, I can see energy. She can see auras, right? So she can see when we're gifted and we use our gifts. And so she used to see that when we would work together. She used to see that, and she would say that was why she always wanted to like work with me. But I guess when we use our gifts, it turns our aura this like kind of holographic, almost this Christmas tree. Like it's like all of these sparkly chakra colors, right? It's like all of the chakra colors just fill up our aura, and it turns into this glittery, sparkly, holographic kind of experience or display. Confirmation received that ultimately is really you're manifesting something, right? So she used to see it when I would use my manifesting abilities, and I would just like fill the room up with euphoria and bliss. It was kind of a negative place, and so I would just try to fill it up with that positive enlightened energy, and she could see that coming off of my aura. She used to say other people's auras are like, they go around their body and they have a certain amount, like it's just around them. She used to tell me that my aura was like Marshmallow Man. So I thought that was so funny. I don't know why I felt called to tell you guys that, but that was how me and my best friend became best friends, right? Because she would be like, I can see the energy, but you can control it. It was really, really funny how we became friends. Anyway, so big messages came out today for this collective collection of random numbers, right? And I mean, for me, it did not feel like a random collection of numbers. I'm just going to tell you flat out. It felt like a sequence, and it felt like a beginning, and it felt like closure. So what does that mean? Well, it felt like a progression, right? A sacred message unfolding one layer at a time. So let's get into it. The codes that came through were... let me see. I remember. So the codes that came through were 9777 and 9778 and 9997. So also we had some letters come out, CVL. I don't know. So C, V, or L. Those could be any of the initials in your name, or just some significant initials or anagram, whatever the case may be. So it also came out 1333, 9997, and then 9777 again, 9777 again, and it was like, across the town. So it was like, that was a really, really big sequence, right? A big gap filler, that's what I call them. So 5558, 5559, 5560, 5561, and finally 9999. So a lot of celestial codes came out today. I definitely did not want to... I wanted to make sure that I did the justice that they so deeply deserve, and I also wanted to do the collective reading justice, right? And so we might start doing that. I might just do the channeled celestial codes message separately, and then we'll just go and do our regular readings. So, something has completed. That's what this is letting me know, right? Beautiful soul, when a sequence begins with 9777, repeats 9777, which is like closure and angelic support of the highest light, and then closes with 9999, the message is very clear. Something has completed, and this is exciting. Something has been understood, something has been confirmed, and something new is now preparing to become visible in the physical world. So something is about to manifest in your life. That's what that means. And this message is about already lived confirmation and soon to be lived confirmation. You know how I feel about confirmations. I want confirmations that you live and experience. That's how you know it's for you, right? So it's about realizing that some of the signs you were waiting for have already happened. That's what that 977 and then all the others and then 977 and then all the others and then 99999 means. So some of the answers you were asking for have already shown themselves through your life. And some people have already revealed who they are. Believe them, right? Because when we enable whatever behavior we're enabling, well, then we are really going back on our boundaries and we're allowing ourselves to be disrespected, or we are emitting a vibration and frequency to the universe that shows, hey, I don't care how I'm treated, or I don't mind if I overextend, or I don't mind if I give more than everyone else, or I don't mind if I'm treated unfairly, and that's not the message we're sending anymore. So some doors have already closed for a reason. That's what that means, okay? That's what that means. So some patterns have already repeated enough times to give you the truth, right? You don't need to go searching for the truth when you've lived it over and over and over again. Now it's just trying to make a move and make a different one, right? So some inner feelings already knew what the outer world had not yet confirmed for you. And now the next wave of confirmation is beginning. So not only through signs, because this is good, but not only through feelings, right? And not only through dreams, numbers, or intuition, but through lived experience. Lived experience. This is what we want, right? We don't want to be sign searching and decoding signs and symbologies for the rest of our lives. We want to start co-creating with the universe through the signs and symbols, but living the experience, right? Living the confirmation. Through movement, through conversations, through decisions, through endings, through opportunities, and through the way life begins arranging itself around the truth you already sensed. So the first code was 9777. Feels like spiritual confirmation after completion. That is always what that means, right? The 9 carries completion, closure, wisdom, and the ending of a cycle, plus the integration of the lessons that came from all of the twists and turns before. And the 777 carries divine alignment, spiritual insight, higher guidance, and sacred confirmation, plus angelic support. So ultimately, 9777 says, you've already completed more than you realize. You've already passed through a lesson that changed you. And you've already become someone who can no longer fit comfortably inside the old cycle. And now the confirmations are arriving to show you that the transformation was real. Sometimes we think completion means we feel absolutely certain. Sometimes we think closure means we never look back. Sometimes we think healing means we never question what happened. But often completion happens quietly. You respond differently. You stop chasing. You no longer need to explain yourself. You stop showing up so someone can disrespect you. You stop over giving and letting people just take from you like they don't never cared, or like they are entitled, more importantly. So you no longer need to explain yourself. You recognize the pattern sooner. You choose peace faster, and you fill the old door. And something inside you simply does not want to walk through it again. That's it. And that is confirmation. That is growth. That is the evidence that the lesson has already become part of you. And then came 6666. Now, 666 gets a really bad rap in our modern society in mainstream. But ultimately, in celestial code, 666 is a number of hearth home and abundance plus love. So often when you see 666 and you have a good relationship with your family, guess what that means? Well, it means it might be time to call mom. Did you know that? And this is not a negative code, okay? It's a balancing code. So it's trying to balance out the situations in your life, balance out your relationships, balance out your abundance, balance out your home and hearth, balance out your environment. Ultimately, it is a grounding code. for it to show up at 6666, that means that there's a little bit of balance or something that might be out of balance in your regular everyday life. So this is in the abundance in your life. So this is in your material and physical world, one way or another. And it's up to you to be honest, real, raw, and true with yourself with what that imbalance is, so that you can start moving toward the rebalancing of the same. So a return to center code is 6666. So 6666 is saying, come back into the body, come back into the heart, come back into your home, come back into your daily life, come back into your relationships, come back into peace. Because after receiving powerful signs, the mind can begin to race. You can start searching for another number, another message, another confirmation, another clue. But 6666 says, don't turn divine guidance into anxiety. Don't let spiritual awareness pull you away from your body. The sign is not asking you to spiral. The sign is asking you to stabilize. And the golden timeline must be lived through your choices. That's another important message of 6666. Also, with the balance coming out, and I'm seeing in my mind's eye something about a car. Okay, so I'm seeing a car, and it looks like they're either getting an oil change or they're getting some kind of but it's a colorful liquid. So maybe it's like antifreeze or something. But they're doing something, and it's looking like it's either leaking from the from underneath, or there's an unseen tear or something that's depressurizing. So it's allowing the fluid to leak out, but it's making the car seem like it's still running correctly. So there's something to this kind of energy where we're rebalancing, we're going through, we're checking the alignment. Okay, so that's what I'm hearing. Check the alignment. And also, we're going in and we're just maybe doing a checkup, right? So this could be taking your car in. For some of you, this could be just taking your car in for an analysis or a prognosis or whatever they call it. And then, and for others of you, this is just doing whatever back checks that you do for yourself. But one way or another, this is being methodical, planning, strategic, and actually going through, being very precise and with precision, looking through and making sure that everything is aligned and working functionally and to your liking. So that's a powerful message coming through with 6666. But ultimately, one way or another, the golden timeline does need to be lived through your choices, but it must be supported by rest. I can't stress planning strategic rest, just doing things to meditate, being out in nature, not so you can go and overstimulate, right? This is so you can nourish yourself through less stimulation, through more simple, sensuous environments, and I'm hearing activities. So by nourishment, by boundaries, by self-respect, by the way you speak to yourself when no one else is listening. This is so important. The internal dialogue and the negative narrative and all the things, we gotta let that go. We gotta let that go. Because you're amazing. You belong. You are wonderful. You're worthy. You are significant. You are capable. You don't have to be perfect. And you absolutely have always been good enough. Okay? So, with all of that knowledge and truth behind you, you can release the negative internal dialogue. By the way, you care for the life you already have, right? While preparing for the life that is coming. So that's what we're doing, and I think that this is such a beautiful. I was like, why are you guys bombarding me? I was like, I know I haven't been keeping up with celestial codes or for celestial oracle codes, right? And I just feel like as soon as we agreed, right, everyone's on board. Well, then I just got bombarded, and because the code appeared with letters, right? This code was different. It was like the CBL 1333. And so it appeared with letters. It felt like, a marked transmission, basically. It was like, there's something about this that needs distinction here. So it was like a special designation, a message carrying its own energetic signature. And the number 1333 carries a new beginning supported by communication, creativity, spiritual assistance, and inspired action energy. So ultimately, the 1 says begin, choose, lead, move. The 333 says you're supported in expressing the truth. But also 333, there's a decision or a choice that needs to be made to start the beginning. So you're supported in creating, you're supported in using your voice, you're supported in sharing what has been placed within you. And when we do that, we've already stepped into a new experience, right? And the letters CVL may carry a personal or collective meaning that becomes clearer through lived confirmation as well. But symbolically, it feels connected to a celestial voice of light. That's what I saw. CVL, that's what I saw. Celestial voice of light. Okay, I'm just going to say it flat out. A chosen vision becoming lived. That's what that means. A chosen vision becoming lived, a new line of creation opening, a message that is no longer meant to stay hidden inside of you. So this code says your voice matters. I can't stress that enough. It says your creativity matters. It says your perspective matters. And the lessons you survived were not only meant to change you, they were meant to change the lives of others. Some of them may now become the wisdom, guidance, art, work, testimony, or service that helps someone else. Remember that. Then came 9997. This feels like the final spiritual understanding at the end of an old cycle. Now, 9997 is like one of those completion codes, right? On my celestial oracle codes, angel numbers decoded, when we get up to 9999, well, that is technically the last celestial code, angel number decoded, that I'll be doing on my channel, right? And that's a lot of videos. Right? 10,000 videos, we're good. But at the same time, 9997 is only 2 away, right? Because we don't go to 10,000, and once we get up past 10,000, those are different kinds of codes, right? Once we get up past 10,000, those are contract codes, spiritual contracts, and things like that. And then anything past anything past that, anything past 99,999, let's say it the right way, it equals a collective insight code, right? Just like the 111,111 code that I gave for the collective reading the other day. And so ultimately, I thought it was really cool that those numbers came out, right? Because 9997 is really close to the end. Well, guess what? 9999 came out, and that is the completed end, right? So this really felt like the final spiritual understanding at the end of an old cycle. I can't stress that enough. 999 carries deep completion. And the 7 says, now understand, now recognize the higher meaning, now be spiritually activated, right? So a lot of gifts and maybe disassociated gifts and spiritual powers are coming online. I was trying to figure out another way to say that, but that's what it is. All right, that's what it is. Now recognize the higher meaning. Now collect the wisdom is what that's really saying. That 999, there's a higher meaning, there's deeper wisdom, there's lessons to be integrated. We need to really be accepting those and letting those just anchor into our being so that we can embody them and live our true nature and purpose. That was not rejection, right? 9997 is the moment when you look back and realize that. You realize that it was never rejection. You realize it was protection. You realize that was redirection. That was not punishment. That was preparation, right? That was not a denial of love. That was the removal of what could not love you correctly. Like, really start seeing, change the narrative, change the perspective. If people were removed from your life, it was so that more aligned people could come in. You can't be amongst those who are going to disturb your peace or take away your happiness or just be a hindrance to the progress of your evolution and expect others to come in and support those things while you're over here entertaining everything that cuts it down and is toxic to the same. Release it and allow it to be released and thank it with gratitude. Thank you for being here so that I can A, see what is not supposed to be, and B, see what should be looking better than what was here before the next time. Okay, you can even take it down there, take it to that. Whatever you got to do, see it as correct for you. So just remember that that's the removal of all the things that couldn't show up for you in the correct way, in the aligned way. And that was not the end of your purpose. That was the end of the version of your purpose that was too small for you. Let's say it correctly. That was not lost time. That was the season that taught you what you will never again abandon. Yourself to receive. I can't stress that enough. It truly was the season that taught you what you will never again abandon yourself to receive. So 9997 says, the lesson is no longer only something you survived. Right? There's a completion, a cycle that is completing, and spiritual protection and also spiritual support on because you've completed this cycle. But I mean, you were supported either way. But there's amplified support coming through. 777, right? On the back of that 9, when the 9999 7 becomes the 9777, yeah, that means you have amplified support for completing that cycle. Okay? So it's becoming wisdom you can use. That's what that means. And then 9777 appeared again, right? 9997. So we already got 9777 to open us up. And then we got 9997 to show us that it was closing and that there was support on the backside. But then we got 9777 again, right? That repetition matters. It really does. It feels like a second witness, a sacred echo, a reminder that the first confirmation was not a coincidence. And sometimes a message repeats because the collective is still doubting what they already know. So release all fear and doubt. They have no place in your life anymore. Sometimes life shows you once and the heart says, maybe I misunderstood, or maybe it wasn't me, or maybe it's not about me. Then life shows you again, and the second sign says, trust yourself. Trust what was revealed. Trust the peace that arrived after the truth. And trust the pattern that repeated. Trust the door that closed. Trust the way your spirit responded as well. Huge messages here for all of that. So if you're not trusting the way that you did something, you're not trusting the way that things went, you're not trusting any of it, right? Trust when people don't show up to show you that they care about you as well. So it's a lot of trust that's happening here because that's how we align, set boundaries, enforce those boundaries, and then accept the right energies into our life through that alignment. So the repeated 9777 says, you don't need to keep asking the old cycle for new information. It's already told you what it was. Now listen to what your new life is beginning to tell you. Then came 5558. This is change moving toward abundance. The 5550 or the 555 carries transformation, freedom, divine change, movement, release, and ultimately what some consider rapid change. So divine change can sometimes be a little timely. 555 says the divine is making moves now. So the 8 carries abundance, power, material improvement, authority, success, and a more empowered relationship with receiving. So 5558 says the changes happening now are not meaningless disruption. They are creating space for stability, space for more purpose, space for better opportunities, space for healthier relationships, space for a more aligned expression of your gifts. So space for abundance that does not require you to betray your peace. But beautiful soul, this code also asks you not to resist every change simply because it feels unfamiliar. I can't stress that enough. Right now, a lot of things are going to feel unfamiliar, so we're being asked to not clench and brace and also use our divinity, our discernment, and our wisdom to fully assess what's going on, also trusting in the feelings and the impulses coming through our body, and also not subduing, but sedating the mind, and not with substance, but with breath. Okay, so just breathing through anxiety, breathing through the unfamiliarity, confirmation received of anything that seems to be at odds with what you believe. So the old life may have been familiar, and that did not make it fulfilling though. And the old pattern may have been predictable, and that didn't make it peaceful. The old connection may have been comfortable, but that didn't make it right for you. And that did not mean it could grow with you. So 5558 says, let change become the bridge. Let movement create room. And let the new structure begin forming. Then came 222. And 222 arrived like reassurance, right? Because it's been showing up every day. So first it came out in that first reading, 5222, right? Which let me know that there was a divine change, right? A rapid change that happened that was leading you back into destiny. And it was reassuring you of the support for whatever you were transitioning and letting you know that whatever was happening in your life at that time was right. Okay. So then it comes, or then we go through 111111 or 111,111. And it had its own message. And then the next message that came out was 0222, which is the mirrored edition of 5222. And so what that means is, now that we've gone through this rapid change and we've got all of the information and the guidance that came from 5222, well now, and the guidance that came from 111,111, well now we can approach this from the mirrored aspect, where now it's a change, right? And whatever that divine change that led into that fulfilling, or that support, and that change and that closing of the cycle and that stepping back into destiny, well the 0222 came to let you know that now you're in the 0 point, the place of infinite possibilities, connected to that same energy that was connected to that 5 at the beginning, has now become the 0, right? And ultimately is changing the trajectory of your life, but also closing down the cycles, taking away any of the misalignments that were being expressed and divulged through the 5222, ultimately leading into the completion and closure from the 111,111, and then culminating or representing itself in reality in the 0222, right? And in the overall way that the eagle cleared the field, right? All right, so 222 arrived like reassurance yet again for this, after completion, after correction, after transformation. So 222 says, trust the alignment, trust the timing, trust the rebuilding, and trust that what is truly meant for you does not need to be forced into place. It just doesn't. 222 carries peace, harmony, partnership, cooperation, patience, emotional balance, and divine timing. So it says, what belongs together will begin finding its way together. That's what's happening. That's why I'm telling you, it's repositioning things so that they can come together. And that means persons, people, okay? What does not belong together will become harder to hold in place as well. That's the other side of that, right? It's just going to seem like too much effort. It's going to seem like too much work. It's going to seem like, why am I the only one in this, putting in the effort and work? It's going to give that feeling. It's going to give the feeling of, why do I keep showing up to be disrespected? It's going to give the feeling of, why do I keep letting people overstep my bounds, right? Why do I keep letting people cross the lines of my boundaries? Why do I keep not enforcing? Why do I keep enabling? Why do I keep showing up, show out, basically? And why do I keep rising to the occasion for experiences that are beneath my own desires, right? So that means I've been entertaining experiences that are below my minimal standard, right? The minimum standard of what I'm going to allow in my life, and the tolerance level of what I'm going to allow to align with me and become a part of my experience. All right, so this may apply to love. So I am getting a very strong feeling of this may apply to love. It also could apply to friendships. It's definitely something about relationship, but not only, okay? So it's applying to purpose. It's also applying to collaboration, which is another side of relationships. Community as well, another side of relationships. So it's a heavy hitter in the spiritual law of relationships. But it's also a heavy hitter in your divine purpose, okay? It's coming through family and your relationship with yourself as well. Often when we are looking at the spiritual law of relationships and relationships in general, we forget our most important relationship that we will ever have is the one we have with ourselves. And or your relationship with the divine, okay? So 222 says, choose harmony, but don't confuse harmony with self-abandonment. Choose peace, but don't confuse peace with silence in the face of disrespect. And choose cooperation, but don't keep carrying what others refuse to hold with you. True alignment does not ask you to disappear. Then came 0717. Remember, I told you the 0 is always important because it shows that we're stepping through the unknown into a new experience. And the 0 is important here too. The 0 is the sacred reset, right? The space before form and the pause between one chapter and another. So that's what it's looking at. Whenever you see that 0 come off and you're like, oh my gosh, this is some kind of guidance for me, just remember that 0 on the front of that is it letting you know that you've closed something down and now this is the experience that's coming to meet you. Rise to the occasion of you. So that 0 is always like pause between one chapter and another, right? It's letting you know you might not see this right now but the zero's still here. You might still be going through the zero where it's the closing of the chapter, or there's like a pause, right? This needs to end, and we need to make sure you're not attached to any of that energy anymore before this energy comes in to make sure that it fully restores and replaces that energy correctly. All right, so the place where the old identity loosens and the new identity has not fully revealed itself yet is the same. So if you're in that identity switch place, awakening place, rebirth place, you might be seeing more zeros, or you might be seeing numbers in sequences connected to zero, okay? That's a manifestation of your energy and alignment with change and with the new beginning that's coming into your life. So ultimately, zero says, return to source, return to possibility, return to the quiet place within you where you don't have to know every answer before taking the next honest step. And then comes 717, a code of spiritual awakening, inner knowing, divine direction, and soul path confirmation. So this is a beautiful one to get, right? And so we have the 0717. And what did I say? I said you might be in the waiting period before this becomes evident for you, right? So what is becoming evident? Well, your spiritual awakening, your inner knowing, your divine direction, and your soul path confirmation. So that's beautiful. But that's what you're stepping into one way or another. After the reset, listen within. That's the other side of this, right? The one, this is like a mirroring number with that one being mirrored, right? 7 on this side, 7 on that side. So there's something about this new beginning, this leadership, this self-authorship, this new self-sovereignty, and this new way of approaching new beginnings and creating your life that is housed in between spiritual activation, spiritual awakening, spiritual and angelic support, and ultimately in you listening within, right? That 7-7, well, the one is within those, and that means the new beginning or the creative spark is within you. So your spirit knows more than your fear wants you to believe. That's what that means. And your inner guidance has already been speaking. It spoke through discomfort. It spoke through relief. It spoke through what energized you. It spoke through what repeatedly drained you. It spoke through the opportunities that felt alive. It spoke through the situations where you had to become smaller just to remain. Ultimately, it spoke through your confirmed experiences, right? So 0717 says the reset was not emptiness, it was redirection. Then came 4422. And this is where the message becomes practical. 44 is protection, foundation, structure, responsibility, stability, and discipline creation. So you can see why it's a master number. 22 is partnership, harmony, sacred building, and creating something that can last. And so I think you can see why that's a master number. But together they make a master sequence. And it says, now build the routine, build the channel, build the relationship with yourself, build the new standard, build the new tolerance level, build the healthy habit, build the work, build the home frequency, build the boundary, build the future, one peaceful decision at a time. Because the golden timeline is not only a feeling, it is a structure, right? Foundational structure for your life. And it is the life you repeatedly support. It's what you practice when no one is applauding. It's what you choose when the old temptation returns. It's what you continue building even before the visible reward arrives. So 4422 says, foundation is protected, but your participation is required. And then the final code appeared, 9999. Beautiful soul, 9999 is complete closure. It is the ending of an ending, the final bell, right? I told you. The ending of an ending, or the completion of the platform, the completion of the cycle, the completion of the channel, the completion of the circuit, whatever you want to call that. But ultimately, it is completion. It means it's time to integrate whatever lessons, activate, integrate, anchor, and truly embody whatever is going to move you into that next chapter. So it's the ending of an ending, right? A lot of the time when we go through these kinds of things in our life, it seems like it's this phase, and we're like, oh, it's the end of this chapter, it's the end of this phase, it's the end of this karmic cycle. And then it's like, well, how long is it supposed to be ending? So this celestial message, this oracle message is truly coming out to let you know that this is the ending of an ending, okay? So for those of you who were like, when is it going to end? When am I going to see the difference? When is it going to change? When, all the things, go back through, make sure that you're doing all of those things. Make sure that you're practicing the guidance from those last celestial code messages, and truly just immerse yourself in the alignment and the vibration of knowing not only that you're worthy, you're significant, that you're good enough, that you're capable, that you are all the things that you need to be to call in your highest timeline, to call in that golden timeline, to call in those highest experiences that are truly going to change the way you look at life and the way that you approach life. So that is the final bell, the final release, the wisdom of a cycle fully gathered, right? So gather up all that wisdom and start living it, embodying it. 99.99 says, this chapter has given you everything it was meant to give you. You don't need another wound from it, okay? You don't need another betrayal. You don't need another repetition. You don't need any more boundaries crossed. You don't need anyone to act like they care when they don't. You don't need anyone to act like they have your best interests at heart when you're not, when they don't. And you don't need people to keep acting like you're wrong or you're lying when you're not. And you don't need anyone to validate you through their acceptance of you, right? So this is doing whatever you feel called to do in lieu of validation or without validation, okay? Instead of trying to be validated, just do what lights you up and feels good. That's the other version of that. So you don't need another painful confirmation. That's what that means, because that's all those were. They were just painful confirmations that something wasn't aligned and that you were not giving yourself the self-respect that you deserve in this life. And it was letting others feel like they were entitled to your overgiving, overextending, subordinate, and just undermining energy that you really did project onto yourself, right? It was almost like, oh, you can go before me, you can have this before me, this, I don't need whatever it is, as long as everybody else is happy, then we should all be good. But my happiness definitely doesn't matter. And that was kind of how they showed up for you, right? So those were lived confirmations that you weren't showing up for yourself and in the highest light, and so you were allowing dimmer light to show up for you. So you're allowed to bless what was and still choose what will be, okay? You're allowed to understand the lesson without continuing to live inside it. Don't you worry about that. You're allowed to forgive without reopening access. So you're allowed to be grateful for the growth without returning to the environment that required you to suffer for it. You're allowed to stop carrying the identity of the person who was always waiting for life to finally change. And you are also allowed to stop carrying the identity of the one who always had to take on and internalize the conflict because others didn't want to accept the accountability for their side in the situation. You're allowed. So, you are allowed to stop waiting for life to finally change because life is changing. That's what this message is saying. And so are you. The complete collective message is this. The signs you already lived were real. The endings you already experienced were meaningful. The patterns you already recognized were confirmations. And the peace that appeared when something left was confirmation. The strength you discovered after the loss was confirmation. And the way your standards changed was confirmation. The way your spirit began craving more was confirmation. And now soon to be lived confirmations are moving toward the collective. What was felt internally may become visible externally. And what was understood spiritually may begin forming physically. The new direction may become clearer through an offer, conversation, opportunity, reconnection. So for some of you, it could be going back and revisiting an environment or people and seeing that now there's a deeper alignment because there's a more mutual respect. Okay, so take what resonates and leave what doesn't, because not everybody wants to go back, right? And most of you will not be. But at the end of the day, some here, for some who are in this message or who will eventually get this message, will learn that there is a realignment that can happen with persons, places, and things if the boundaries aren't crossed and it truly is supporting you in your highest light and authenticity, okay? So the new direction may become clearer through release, realization, or sudden shifts in circumstances as well. But the codes are asking the collective not to sit frozen, waiting for the universe to perform the entire transformation. The signs confirm the path. Your choices build it. So here are the simple steps for today. First, recognize one confirmation you've already lived, period. And say, I honor the truth that life has already shown me. Second, choose one completed lesson you will no longer reopen. Say, I take the wisdom and I release the loop. Third, do one grounding action. Drink water, prepare something nourishing, stretch, rest, go out for a nature walk, clean one peaceful corner of your home, come back into your body. Fourth, take one small step toward the life you are building. Write the idea, send the email, record the message, whatever the thing is, right? Make the plan, begin the application, create the outline, take the first step. Fifth, choose one moment of harmony. Speak gently to yourself, right? We want harmonious thoughts, okay? And so offer kindness without abandoning your boundaries. Bring peace into one room, one conversation, or one decision. And finally, celebrate one thing that is already changing. Because something's changing in your life, whether that's your perspective on life, your outlook on yourself, and the optimistic, positive way that you're now looking at your life, because that's the only way you should be looking at your life. And really celebrate whatever that thing is, okay? It can be mental, emotional, or physical, or spiritual, whatever. Everything is spiritual as far as I'm concerned, though, so I always say mental, physical, and emotional. So play a song, smile, take a walk, light a candle, any of those. Dance for a minute, just do something that truly steps you into that energy. And thank yourself for making it this far. More importantly, remember, relationship with yourself is even more important than the relationships with everyone else. So thank yourself for making it this far. Be good to yourself, talk good to yourself, be kind to yourself, think of yourself in the most optimistic and positive and optimistic light. And also make sure you're looking at others in this same optimistic and positive light. We're showing compassion and understanding for things that have been and the dispositions of others, right? Like we really are we're not just trying to see it their way and then, conform. That's not what we're doing. But we are trying to see through their eyes or step into their shoes, however you want to see that, and ultimately help that give us a more well-rounded view of the current situation and the overall circumstances that transpired before. So, thank yourself for making it this far, because joy tells your spirit, I'm available for the life beyond the lesson. And now, beautiful soul, take a breath. Place your hand over your heart if that feels comfortable. And say, I honor the confirmations I've already lived. I welcome the confirmations arriving in divine timing. I release completed cycles with peace. I carry the wisdom forward, but I leave the pain behind. I allow aligned change to create space for love, abundance, purpose, harmony, and truth. I trust what life has already shown me. I trust the new foundations I am building. I trust that what is meant for my highest and godliest good can reach me without force, harm, fear, or manipulation. I am no longer waiting for the old cycle to become something it was never meant to be. I am available for the new. I am grounded enough to receive it. I am wise enough to recognize it. I am courageous enough to choose it. And I am worthy of a life that reflects the peace, strength, and truth I have fought to reclaim. Beautiful soul, beautiful, 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 beloved, radiant soul. You did not come this far just to repeat the chapter that broke you open. Come on now. You did not survive the confusion just to ignore the clarity. And you didn't learn your worth just to keep negotiating it. You didn't find your voice just to silence it again. You didn't receive all these confirmations just to remain standing at the doorway of your own life. This is the moment to understand. The endings were only the beginning. So the ending was not the abandonment of your destiny. That's what that means. The ending was destiny making room. The change was not proof that everything was falling apart. The change was proof that everything could no longer remain the same. And the silence was not always absence. Sometimes it was the space where your inner voice finally became loud enough to hear. The closed door was not always rejection. Sometimes it was protection from a room that could not hold the person you were becoming. And the person you are becoming is not lost. They are emerging, they are building, they are remembering, and they are learning how to trust peace after surviving chaos. They are also learning how to receive without chasing. And they're learning how to move without forcing. And they're learning how to let what is aligned arrive with dignity. So don't be afraid of the chapter that is ending. And don't be afraid of the space it leaves behind. That space is not empty. It is sacred. It is where the next confirmation will land. And it's where the new foundation will rise. It's where the love that matches your healing can find you. And it's where the opportunity that matches your growth can recognize you, more importantly. And it's where the version of you who no longer begs, shrinks, chases, or abandons themselves finally gets to live. The codes have spoken. 9777 says the lesson changed you. 6666 says return to balance. 1333 says use your voice. 9997 says collect the wisdom. 9777 says trust the confirmation. 5558 says allow change to create abundance. 222 says trust what aligns in peace and your destiny. 0717 says follow the guidance after the reset. 4422 says build something real. And 9999 says it is complete. So let it be complete. Let the old identity rest. Let the old story close. Let the old timeline release you. And when life begins showing you the physical evidence of everything your spirit already knew, do not shrink from it. Receive it. Recognize it. Live it. Beautiful soul. This was your Celestial Oracle Codes message for today. I love you all unconditionally. Please take only what resonates and lovingly leave the rest for whomever it is for. But at the end of the day, and the beginning too, trust your own inner guidance and remember, you're not waiting for your life to begin. The confirmations are already here. The next ones are already forming, and the future is no longer asking whether you are ready to repeat the past. It's asking whether you are ready to become the proof that the past did not defeat you. Once again, if you're not a subscriber, do please consider subscribing. I'd love to have you around. We would love to have you around. Until then, I send you all my light, my love, and my blessings. And I will see you all in my next reading.